Alright YouTube, hello, it's Tempest. Welcome to part 2 of the Basement Build Guide Extravaganza blah blah blah. It's my Bermuda Triangle tutorial, and I'm gonna get right to it. Okay, so this deck focuses on gaining severe hand advantage from using different things. Um, your main draw power in this deck is Rainbow Light Carrying and Girls Rock Rio. Their job is to, when they're bounced, you can soul charge one, oh, you counterblast one first, and then you soul charge one card and draw one card. So they give you major pluses because each time one of them's bounced back to your hand, that's a +1, and then they give you +1 off their draws. Um, this reindeer here helps with the pluses. If you drive checks a grade 3, you can bounce one and call it back. So that means you can, if you have Karen here, you already attacked, and you drive check a grade 3, you can bounce Karen, activate her skills, soul charge, draw, and then call her out again, and still the potential of revealing first a second trigger off Rio, or not Rio, Reindeer, excuse me, and then if you have like Flores or Perla on your rear guard and she hits, then you can Soul Blast 2, bounce Karen back again, and do some more shenanigans. And that's how you mainly get pluses. Secondary engine consists of basically just Myrtoa, because if she's called to a rear guard, both players draw one card. Simple as that. And you'd be surprised how much advantage this deck generates. Mainly, as long as you can keep guarding your rear guards, because your opponent will eventually figure out that if you fail to bounce Rio or Karen, that's their opportunity to take them out. And also Flores, because she's just annoying. She'll give you the ability to call stuff back and do stuff. So yeah, once they figure that out, your rear guard will start becoming targets. And really, you can just save your guards for your Vanguard attacks. It's pretty nice. Alright, for grade 1s, like I said, I have 4 perfect guards. And then I have 3 Myrtoa, 4 Sedna, and 3 Feluca. So that's 10 grade 1s. And turn 1, that's a potential of 1 in 5 chance of having something I can get a plus off of for riding. I mean, perfect guard ride is always bad. These 3 and these 3 will give you a plus. Ideally, you want to ride Sedna though, and save these 2, because when you ride Sedna on Weddle, Weddle will move to the rear guard. And then on your next turn, you can ride Aqua, and then call Myrtoa or whatever, and then draw a card, and then soul charge Weddle to bounce Myrtoa, and then use her effect again to draw another card. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Other things you can do are, now if you saw my last video, you know I'm proxying stuff, but if not, okay, so Flutes here is a Rio proxy, and this blank is also a Rio proxy, blah blah blah, and then Claire and Izumi are also Pearl proxies. So, another thing you can do is call Perla, which is actually Izumi. Izumi is an 8K, but Perla is actually a 9K. So just to keep that in mind. And then put something behind her that's like 6K or more. So basically another grade 1 that's not a perfect guard, because none of your triggers are 6K. And then you attack. If you drive check a trigger, basically you give the power to Perla, and then that almost guarantees her hitting. And then what she does when she hits the Vanguard, you Soul Blast 1, and then you bounce something back. So that gives you the opportunity to call her back and draw more. Simple as that. And then Flores, same thing. If you have Flores out and Myrtoa behind, whatever, and then you attack, and then you get a trigger. You get a trigger to Flores. Use her effect. You Soul Blast 2, and then you bounce whatever. Alright, so Myrtoa is always a good choice to target bouncing. Ideally, you want to target these 2 for bouncing because their pluses are just so good. But really, as long as you can target something with it, normally your Soul Blast won't be wasted. Especially considering you're not going to use Pacifica at all on this deck. Perla and Flores will usually get pluses as long as you can bounce a grade 1 or grade 0 from your rear guard to your hand off of their effects. Odds are you're going to get come back from that. Feluca, like I said here, I like Feluca because fan service and because I like her effect, it's decent. Some people will say Perla is better. Or not Perla, Pearl, the grade 1. And what Pearl does is she's a 7K, and if Perla is on the field, Pearl gives Perla the ability to if her attack hits a Vanguard, she gets to Soul Charge 1 and draw 1 card, and then on top of that, Perla gets her own effective Soul Blasting 1 and bouncing something. So if you bounce the Pearl Rearguard, that's once per turn you get a free draw because you get a Soul Blast, Soul Charge. That's a net gain of 0, and then you get a draw. So that's why Pearl's good. That's pretty good. What else is there here? With Reindeer, if you can draw 1 Reindeer in your first hand and not get any other grade 3s until you hit this, you basically have 8 stand triggers. It's a very good high likelihood of getting her effect. And with Reindeer, it's super good because you can actually use it to get off Carrying and Rio's effect off. Can you see this? Oh, here we go. Yeah, multiple times. You can get Carrying and Rio's effect off multiple times with the same drive checks, and I have been able to do it actually. And when you guard with this deck, just remember that you want to have enough face-up damage so that you can use all of your counterblasts, because you don't have to waste them on Pacifica. You can just counterblast them and use them on Rio and Carrying, and that's how you get your pluses. Now, one thing you have to worry about is decking out. Without Pacifica in this deck, it really isn't a big deal. You just have to know when to stop doing it. And sometimes it can be hard to tell when you stop doing it. Normally, look at your deck and you look over and it'll be like, oh, I only have 10 cards left. But if you think about it, normally between 10 cards, it'll be like, okay, so say you grab a heal trigger, that's 1 damage, so now you're down to 9. You draw for turn, now you're down to 8. Twin Drive is going to drop you down to 6. If you call Murtoa or use Rio's effect, that'll drop you down to 5, and then you draw for turn again and drop down to 4. Twin Drive again, drop you down to 2. You see what I mean? In 2 turns, you've already gone from 10 cards to like 2. So, and still does a Tachikaze, it's not a big deal, but in this deck it actually does matter because I have been able to stall and deck out before. And because this deck doesn't make any 20k columns without triggers, you really have to be careful because if your opponent can overguard you, it's basically a stall war. Yeah, this deck doesn't fare well against Kagero because if it doesn't get the bouncing it needs, the Kageros just kill whatever you have, especially if it's Rio. Or Murtoas, yeah, they can just pop those whenever they want. But if you can get your bouncing good, then you'll walk all over them. It's kind of hit or miss against Kagero, but basically, this deck's worst matchups are anything that can win quickly. Basically, if you don't get Rio turn 2 against Spike Brothers or Palamedes, you know, you're probably screwed. Because you're not going to have enough advantage to guard and do stuff. You won't really be screwed, but you're not going to be in a good position. Alright, and then one more thing is trigger lineup. I have 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. Running stands in this deck. Is it ideal? No. Does it work? Yes. It's kind of like the same way as running stands in Spike Brothers, where it's not ideal, but it can work for you. Not many decks run Skydiver anymore, but the effect is pretty good that if you want to run Skydiver, if you want to run like 4 Dudley Emperor, 2 Juggernaut, 2 Skydiver, it can be potentially good. Especially if you have Dudley Douglas, excuse me. Yeah, stand triggers can be decent because if they guard the Skydiver, you're like surprise, stand trigger, ha, and then you stand up and then boom. But yeah, in this deck, the only things you're going to want to be standing are your Flores and Perla, because basically what happens is during the late game, when your opponent has 3 or 4 damage, your field will look something like this. Probably like that. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, okay. So, normally what you do is you'll attack with Karen first, so you can get her attack in. Then you'll go Reindeer, and do your Twin Drive to get the grade 3 check. If you get it, great. Bounce this, do stuff. But what happens is, since it's a Vanguard attack, it's only 17k, but if you get a double crit or something, because you're running 8 crit in this deck, your opponent might be screwed over, so they probably have to perfect guard it, or at least get a 2 pass. And then with Flores, even if you're attacking a rear guard, odds are they're going to guard, because if you didn't get any triggers off this, or grade 3s rather, to bounce this, then you can use her effect to Soul Blast 2 and bounce it, and they're going to want to guard that. So yeah, stand triggers can be okay, but not in this variant actually. there are some decks. I think the Rio one can run. Yes, the Rio one can run the stand triggers because Rio's ability is the Persona Blast, counter 2, drop Rio from your hand. Not Rio, Riviera, excuse me. Riviera's deck is a good. Drop the Riviera from your hand, and then give 3 of your rear guards 5k. And Flores is good in that too because you'll have Felipe soul charging and Flores soul blasting the bounce carrying. Um, so that's useful. But that's the only deck that I could think of doing it because the Pacifica decks, they want to have the extra soul in case they want to get off the Mega Blast. And then, well, I mean, in case they want to. If they don't have to, but they can, you know. But really, stand triggers in this thing aren't really necessary. I mean, I guess if you're going to use Pacifica Beatdown, that's fine. But since flutes are 11k rear guards and they don't have any 9k boosters, that's not really viable. You know, I don't really know. It's kind of a hard thing to say, really. I mean, I have Blue and Pacifica deck, and really, he only gets to he only hits the magic 21k with Pacifica or Lena on rear guard, so it doesn't really matter. Not really rear guard, a Vanguard circle, so it doesn't really matter. So that's a little bit of a tutorial how to play Bermuda Triangles, or at least how to play this deck. Basically, it's like Oracle Think Tanks that you play your unit and you bounce them back to your hand. It's simple as that. I wouldn't say it's a control deck. It's a very aggro deck, but you have to get the draw power. You need to make sure you win. So if you get grade lock, that can really slow you down. Unless you grab Perla. If you get Perla and Rio and you get grade lock, that's okay because you can usually draw your way out of it. But getting grade lock this deck is not a good thing. So that would be one reason to run 13 grade 1s, 11 grade 2s, and 9 grade 3s. I'm running 14, 10, 9. Really both is a good way to go. So thanks for watching, and I'll get to my next video really soon. Bye.